Hi everyone and welcome back to another What I Eat in a Day. First things first, and from now on I will be using cup measurements instead of mugs, as I think some of you have found it a bit confusing, but that said, cup sizes still differ all over the world. I don't have any measuring cups, I'm literally just using a cup, but it's the standard size of a measuring cup, which holds 250 milliliters. The previous recipes will say as mugs, and my mug held 400 milliliters. And I'll also be sticking to tablespoon and teaspoon measurements because I think that's simple enough for everyone. Plus I don't have any scales. So on to breakfast. Now this is definitely a Sunday morning kind of breakfast, but if I have the time to make this midweek then I will. And these are loaded mini hash browns with spinach, tomatoes and homemade ketchup. After my previous video, many of you asked if I could share the homemade ketchup recipe. So to make this I just use 1 cup of tomato paste and I add that to a medium-sized saucepan with 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar, a tablespoon of agave nectar, a teaspoon of onion powder, this is optional, and then I stirred in 1/3 cup of hot water. Now you can use as little or as much water as you like to make it your desired consistency. I still like it quite thick, but if you want it a little bit runnier, just add more water. I let that cook for around 20 minutes, leave it to cool down, and then I store it in a bottle in the fridge, and that will last you up to 2 weeks. For the hash browns, I just peeled and grated 2 medium-sized potatoes in my food processor, and then I seasoned it with 1 tablespoon of onion powder and some salt and pepper. And this mix makes 4, so I just divide up the mix. You have to squeeze out the excess water, this is really important. And then I form little patties. Now they don't stick together until they start cooking, so they may fall apart a little bit to start with, but once you add them to a large pan with a little olive oil, you can shape them better with a spatula, and as I say, as the potato cooks, they then begin to bind together. I cook them for around 5 to 10 minutes or until golden brown, and then I flip them over to cook on the other side. And once they're cooked, you can put them to one side. And then I just took 4 slices from a large tomato and I placed those in the same pan. They literally take a minute to cook on each side. And I also added in a large handful of washed spinach, and that wilts down within a few seconds. Once they're cooked, I then just spread on some of my homemade ketchup onto the hash browns, added on the spinach, finished with the tomato and seasoned with some more black pepper. I just had that with my morning cup of tea, and they're not as complicated as they look. They're super simple but really delicious and really filling. And if you wanted, instead of the tomato, you could even use mushrooms or onions instead. If you watched my daily vlogs last summer, you'll know that I eat these so often for breakfast. They're basically like a savoury pancake, so you can serve them up whichever way you like. I just had a really simple morning snack of apple slices with some almond butter and an oat crumble. I just sliced up 1 green apple and then I took some almond butter and I spread enough of that onto each slice, and then I took some of this oaty crumble topping that I'd made previously using 1 cup of oats mixed with 3 tablespoons of agave. I spread it onto a lined tray and baked that in the oven for 20 minutes or until golden brown. And then you can just leave it to cool and store it in a container. You can use it on smoothie bowls, etc. You can double the mixture if you want more. And so I just sprinkled some of that onto my chopping board, and then I pressed each slice into it, which just gives it a bit of texture and crunch. And I just had that with another cup of tea because this tea is amazing. I found a green tea with peppermint and it's so refreshing. If you follow me on Snapchat, you'll know I also made this snack using some sliced bananas as well, so that's another option. For lunch, I made some fried mustard mushrooms on avocado superfood toast. And I started by slicing up a pack of mushrooms, which was 400 grams, and then I minced up 2 cloves of garlic and I fried those in a little olive oil in a pan on a medium heat until soft. I then added in the mushrooms and I cooked those until they were nice and golden brown. Whilst that was cooking, I popped a slice of my superfood bread, the recipe for this is down below, under the grill, and then back to my mushrooms. I just stirred in a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, a small handful of fresh chopped parsley, and I seasoned it well with some black pepper. Once the bread was toasted, I cut that in half and then I mashed up an avocado in its shell, and then I spread that onto each slice, and I squeezed over the juice of half a lemon. I then served the mushrooms on top of that with some more fresh parsley, and I also made a green juice to go with this. I just juiced up a thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger, a handful of fresh mint leaves, 2 green apples, a stick of celery, a cucumber, and then I lastly squeezed in the juice from the other half of the lemon. And this was such a good lunch. It's a little bit fancier than just plain old avocado toast, and you can even have it for breakfast if you wanted. For an afternoon snack, I made this really simple chickpea salad jar, and I started by chopping up 2 medium tomatoes into really small pieces, and then a small red onion, a red chilli, this is completely optional, I like my chilli, and also a handful of fresh mint leaves. I then had half a can of chickpeas left over, so I just added those to a large jar. I then added in the chopped veg and the mint, and then I added 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of lemon juice, and then I just popped the lid on the jar, made sure it was on properly, and then gave it a really good shake to mix everything together. It's so quick and easy, you can take the whole thing to work. I actually only ate half the jar, so I kept the other half in the fridge and I had that the next day. It's great as a morning snack as well because it gave me so much energy. For dinner I made a Thai green curry, and this is one of my all-time favourite meals. So I started by slicing up 1 white onion, and I added that to a pan on a medium heat with a teaspoon of coconut oil, and I just allowed them to cook until soft. In the meantime, I sliced up 1 thumb-sized piece of ginger, 4 spring onions, 2 carrots, a red chilli, 2 red peppers, and also 2 green peppers. You can use green beans, broccoli, it's just a great way to use up vegetables in your fridge. So once my onions are soft, I minced up 2 cloves of garlic, added those to the pan, and then I added the ginger and 2 tablespoons of Thai green curry paste, but read your jar for instructions as some may be stronger than others. I gave that a good mix together, and then I allowed it to cook for a few more minutes before adding in the carrots, the red chilli, and the red and green peppers, and the spring onion. I made sure that those were well mixed together, and then I added in a can of baby corn and a can of coconut milk. Again, stirred it really well, and then I popped the lid on and left it to simmer for 25 minutes. In the meantime, I cooked some rice in some veg stock, and I chopped up some fresh coriander, and then I served up the curry. I usually do a third of the bowl of rice, the veg in the middle, and then fill the bowl with the rest of the coconut milk kind of sauce. I then added on the chopped coriander and some leftover red chili slices, and this is honestly one of my favourite meals. As I say, you can even skip the rice if you wanted to, add in another can of coconut milk and just have it as like a Thai green curry soup. That's amazing as well. Just the flavours of the ginger, the chilli, the lemongrass and the Thai basil from the paste, the coriander and the coconut is just amazing and so fragrant. And finally, for some dessert, I made some salted caramel nice cream, and I made this on Snapchat recently, and so many of you messaged to say that you'd like the recipe. So I just blended up 2 frozen chopped bananas until almost smooth, and then I added in 4 chopped dates, a tablespoon of almond butter, a teaspoon of maca powder, and a pinch of pink Himalayan salt. I blend that up again, but only for around 15-20 seconds so that it still has small pieces of chewy caramel like dates and swirls of almond butter, and this made 3-ish scoops altogether. It's just so delicious, and honestly, once you've made it once, you'll just want to make it again and again. Literally does just taste like salted caramel. I love the sweetness from the bananas and the dates. The maca powder gives it a slight caramel flavour, and then you've got the saltiness as well, and it's just such an amazing combination and so tasty. And that is it for another What I Eat in a Day. I really hope you enjoyed it. As always, all the recipes and ingredients and links to ingredients will be in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in my next one. Bye!